And it says we're live. It looks like we're live. So I'm going to assume we're live.
Yay!
How's it going? I'm Joe.
I'm Ashley.
And together we are Geek to My Nerd. And we are doing our second episode of the BFF book club with Simon versus the Homosapens Agenda. It's a lovely little book that became the film that came out this year, I believe.
Yeah, Love Simon.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed it did.
And yeah, so we're here to talk about this this book that we just finished not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. We ready to get started with stuff?
Oh yeah.
Let's jump right in.
All right, so we're gonna do a basic overview of the book, like some facts about it. We'll talk about the characters. Then we'll go into plot divergences with the movie, since it was turned into a movie. Our general gripes and likes, focusing on the book. And then moments that were most missed from the movie, things that we would have liked to have seen in the adaptation.
Yep. Yeah.
So is there anyone that we need to address in the chat?
Oh, I'm sorry. Cal's here. He's lurking at the moment. He shared us out, but we don't have any other visitors at the moment. But hopefully we'll get some people popping in.
All right.
My bad. I didn't understand what I was doing for a second there.
It's cool. It's been a while since we've streamed.
Yeah, it has.
All right, so back to the presentation.
Yep, it's up.
All right, so Simon versus the Homosapiens Agenda was released on April 7th, 2015. This is a debut novel from Becky Albertalli. So, you know, right off the bat, having a successful novel is always good for the career of any author. This was voted or decided by the Wall Street Journal as one of the best young adult novels in 2015. I don't know what other novels were also considered, but that seems to be some pretty high praise. The Goodreads rating, which these are all user reviews, is 4.34 out of 5. And the Amazon rating, again, all user reviews, 4.7 out of 5. The page count for the book is 303, and it really depends on which edition you get, because there are several different editions with different slight variations of the book cover. And then 6, if you read it through an audiobook, like on Audible, it's at 6 hours and 45 minutes. So
not a very difficult read, so to speak.
Yeah, this is literally a quick read. Like, I literally read it in a day. You would have also read it in a day had you kept pace with me.
Yep.
And so yeah, very easy read. I thought it was an enjoyable read as well. Very easy to get into the story and want to know what happens, even though we had seen the movie first.
Yep.
All right, so the first thing that we're going to go into are the different characters. And so we've pulled up movie stills, and that way we could talk about the characters. Because again, it was either that or try to find stock photos for everybody. It was already a movie. It was
like fan art, and then there's like rights needed for that.
Yeah. So yeah, characters. So obviously our protagonist, Simon Spear. He is a junior in high school, and he's really into music. And of course, you know, the big thing is that he is really kind of coming to terms with his sexuality, and
doesn't really know how to tell people.
Yeah, like he's been gay for a while, but again,
I think at this point it's like 3 or 4 years or something.
Yeah, but he hasn't figured out how to tell anyone, and he's really worried about telling his parents, just because like his parents are real nosy. Not that they would be mad. It's just that he doesn't, you know, it's embarrassing to tell your parents anything. Like,
I think one of the big points is that they would, quote unquote, make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, and he doesn't want people to make a big deal.
Yep.
All right, so this is Simon's family. Nora, who is a freshman in high school, so they go to the same school. His other sister, who's older, is not pictured. Alice, who's away at Wesleyan College. It's implied that she has just started there because Simon's having a hard time adjusting to her being gone.
Yep.
And then his mom and dad, Emily and Jack.
And I also think in the movie, for example, the sister pictured Nora is much younger, like junior high, but still, book is high school.
And she's real, like she's like a big reader and such. She kind of keeps to herself and has like little comments, and then we don't really see a whole lot of her in the book. Like she's just kind of there in the background, and then she shows up later at the end and is suddenly like the lead guitar in a band. And it's like, when did you learn to do this? Because she's like missing half the time, and Simon's upset that his sister's always gone.
Cal asks if it's the same author, and no, that author, I don't know that author's name, who did the graphic novel for Scott Pilgrim versus the World. But no, this is a very different author. Very different.
Yeah, I haven't looked that up.
Who that is,
Yeah. All right, Nick Eisner is Simon's best male friend who's on the soccer team. He has a huge crush on Abby. And so kind of a slight movie thing. In the book, it's implied that he is white because he's Jewish. And he says that he has Russian heritage because somebody makes a comment about him being from Israel. And it's like, no, my family's from Russia. In the book, he's in the movie, he's an African-American male. And they don't really mention his last name. So he's just Nick. And then Leah, his best female friend, who's really into drawing like manga and really into anime. She's described as being very, like she's, like, voluptuous is the wrong word because you're talking about like a teenager, but she's a bigger girl, and she really doesn't seem to like care that much about, you know, like being on the heftier side, for lack of a better term. And she has a huge crush on Nick, and she's always commenting about, like, you know, the other characters that are, like, more perfect looking than her, where she doesn't really feel like she's not confident. It's just, like, she knows that
she's got kind of a chip about it.
There's a type, and she's not that type.
Yeah.
And then Abby Sousa, who is the newest friend to the group. And so in the school play, she plays the Artful Dodger. They're doing a school production of Oliver, the musical.
Why should they worry?
And then she loves, or she's very much into Nick as well, so it's a mutual thing. And then we have Martin Addison, who is the one blackmailing Simon. This has started from the moment the book starts. He has already found Simon's emails, and he has taken screenshots, and so now he is blackmailing Simon to better become acquainted with Miss Abby. And he plays Fagin in the school's production of Oliver. And he also has an older brother who has recently come out of the closet. So he kind of feels like he can relate to Simon on that level. Because
like the summer before the school year started.
He has this brother. And then you kind of learn some things about like his family situation where like you're not supposed to like Martin, but then you can see why he would do some of these things.
For the crappy things he does in this movie, he is still not some of the worst characters in this movie. Or this book, sorry.
It's okay.
Kind of a similar situation as well, but yes, in general.
Yeah, so like in the book we learn that like his parents are real proud of the brother like coming out of the closet, and like they went to the Pride and all these things, and the brother is not even like at home, like he's off at college, and it's like, why are we doing these things when he's not around? And he just like finds it like as a kind of a weird situation for himself. And he's also described as being like much taller than, not quite a head taller, but at least 6 inches taller, and just like the class clown, and he's always joking around. But yeah, he just desperately wants to be with Miss Abby, and she just does not see him in the same way. And then their theater teacher, Miss Albright, who is described in the book as they say that she has red hair. They never really give us an indication of ethnicity. So, you know, it could go any way. In the movie, they cast her as African-American character, which I like what they did with a lot of that in the book, going to the screenplay. So, and she doesn't tolerate bullying. And at one point, like somebody in the junior class does something horrible at the Oliver production, and she just like goes up on stage before they do the play and like literally reads the handbook about bullying, and is just not afraid to confront people and make sure that justice is served.
It should be noted she's like the only like teacher character in this book with any significant presence, because I think their English teacher also has like a few lines in the book, but she actually has mild characterization and is treated as more than just like I'm in English class.
Yeah, like they're just in this class and the teacher handed back papers. Like you can tell she has a relationship with the characters, and that would make sense being a theater teacher, because she's probably been their theater teacher throughout high school, and you build a better bond with kids if they're in a cohort versus when you only see them for one class year.
Well, and then there's also the mentality that, like, you know, emotion is a much bigger point of theater.
Yeah.
So they're going to be more emotive, and they're going to bond faster, et cetera, et cetera. So,
of course. And then Cal Price is a stage manager, so he is in the senior class, whereas Simon and his friends are in the junior class. Yep. And so this is the object of Simon's crush for most of the novel. So Simon gets this idea in his head. He's been corresponding back and forth with this mysterious character called Blue. And he is imagining that Blue is Cal, because like Cal's described to have blue-green eyes in the book, or like bluish eyes. And so he thinks because of the email address that he's been corresponding with, well, then it must be this person. And so it kind of stays steadfast throughout the whole novel until there's a turning point that he thinks that Cal must be his mysterious pen pal. And then it's revealed later in the book that this character, Cal, he comes out as bisexual. Mm-hmm. So let's see who's next. All right, and then Bram Greenfeld, who's on the soccer team with Nick, and his parents are divorced. And this is really the person that has been corresponding with Simon under the pseudonym Blue. And
also he's Kid Flash.
Also the Kid Flash. And yeah, it's cute in the movie when they meet. We'll talk about that and when we get to that point.
Yes.
But he's very much like, I don't want you to find out who I am. The impetus of the story is this character posted something on this secret it's the secret Tumblr they have for their school, and revealed that he was gay, and like I think he left an email address, or there was some way that Simon was able to contact him, and Simon makes a fake email, and so that's how it goes back and forth. So part of the book is this just regular story told in a traditional form. I think it's in first person. And then the other half of the story is told through this correspondence through these emails. So kind of like an old school epistolary novel, but now it's in the form of an email instead of the form of letters, which used to be a very common narrative type in early American literature, I believe, the epistolary novel.
So before we get on to the plot divergences, Cal wanted to throw out that he's liking the slide design. I'm a big fan of your chalkboard art or writing as well.
Yeah, I tried to find the closest font to whatever Love Simon's font is. I try to make them match as much as possible, so that way it fits the theme, and I tried to go with the color scheme, but I didn't want to make all the slides red because the book is red, so I was like, okay, well, black is neutral, we won't burn our eyes. And then I was like, oh, I can just do the little call-outs like the book cover for the transition slides, if you will. So I was trying to make it look like the book as much as possible. I do have a kind of an eye for design.
Yep.
I mean, not like the best. Like, I don't have a lot of talent, but I could put a PowerPoint together, Anyway. So are we ready for plot divergences?
Yes, we are.
All right. So the big differences between the book and the movie, we talked about some little ones earlier. And then I wanted to give some facts about the movie as well. So this came out this year in March. It feels like it was I felt it came out in January, but obviously I'm wrong. Directed by Greg Berlanti. It came out at number 5 its opening weekend. A budget of $17 million, so a smaller film. It actually almost made its whole budget back the opening weekend, coming in just shy of $12 million, and made a total box office in the $66 million range.
Which is really impressive, almost quadrupling its budget.
And so marketing and such. So this actually probably is considered a pretty successful film because the low budget versus the profit margin. So I think for a movie to be successful, it has to get 2.5 times its budget. So you're better at math than me. So you said that
it's almost quadrupled its budget.
So yeah, this would
because 4 times its budget would have been $68 million.
Okay. So yeah, this was definitely a success.
Yep.
So even though like the box office numbers are little compared to your behemoths like your Infinity Wars and whatnot, and then that's the worldwide total. I didn't look at what just the domestic total was.
Yeah, but honestly, at this day and age, worldwide kind of matters more than domestic.
Yeah, and then who knows how many markets this would have played in.
Yeah, this is I'm not going to say it's niche, but it's definitely not a movie I think would sell in some countries.
There's certain countries where this would not be allowed.
No, not even not allowed, just wouldn't be as prevalent.
Yeah. So one of the big changes is there's this creepy assistant principal character that's not in the book.
By Buster Blues.
Not in the book at all. And he's creepy because he's always talking about his love life with Simon. Like, hey, I just went on this Tinder date. And it's like, no.
Hey, teachers like to have dates too.
Yeah.
It's okay. Administrators are cool too.
Yeah, but I don't tell my students what we do on a Friday afternoon or whatever after school.
No, we don't.
Like, that's not appropriate.
Totes not appropriate.
They don't need to know about when we went to the movies.
Nope.
And then read the Bible or something. I don't know.
Whatever.
Not really. And then he always just seems to find Simon, so it's a little creepy.
Yeah.
And then later on, after Simon it's revealed that Simon is gay, he's like, okay, he's like,
when I said we're the same.
I didn't mean that way. It's like, dude, don't. Just don't.
It's like, cringe.
Such a cringe. And then Lyle, so one of the big differences between the book and the movie is Simon has several different moments where he thinks different characters must be blue. So the first person he thinks is actually Bram. And I think it's because of their mutual love of Oreos, especially the Halloween one. So Bram like kind of makes that as a side comment at lunch one day because they all eat lunch together. And so then he thinks Bram must be blue and he starts fantasizing.
It's also like the Halloween party. If something happens there, it makes him think it.
Yeah.
That goes away when he walks in on Bram making out with a girl. That they explain away later, and it makes sense.
Yeah, so then he moves on to, I think Lyle is the second one that he thinks.
I thought it was Cam and then Lyle, but I could be wrong. Could be the other way around.
Yeah, so Lyle is one of the ones he feels is blue, and so then he starts imagining Lyle is the one making the correspondence, and then he finds out at homecoming that Lyle has a crush on Abby, so he's like deflated, and then moves on to I think maybe Cal. And then Ethan is the out gay kid at school who they barely mention in the book like one time.
Well, they even mentioned that like there's not just one, there's like 3 or 4 guys that are, and there's quite a few girls that are, and it's like the movie makes it a point of like there's like one other gay guy at school, or one gay guy at school.
Yeah, and in the book they talk about like the lesbians don't ever have any problems because guys are more attuned to liking that kind of thing.
Which is a pretty societal standard concept, and that, so is kind of crummy.
Yeah, and then Ethan is always there's these 2 bullies that are always after him, and so he always has a really snappy comeback anytime these guys are trying to roast him. And then like Ethan also has a really cute moment where they do all these like different coming out things, and he tells his little friend group, and all the girls are like, "Oh, really?" Like
they kind of like they do the feigned surprise, like, "Oh, we didn't know." And then one of them like overdoes it, where she's like, "Oh my god, I'm so surprised! It's such a happy time, etc., etc." And one of the friends is just like, "You're overdoing it."
And then him and Simon have a really good moment where Simon is so like impressed with him. Like, I can't believe that, or like, it must be easier for you because you've been out a lot longer. And then Ethan has a really sweet moment where he's like, yeah, but my mom still lies to my grandmother because my grandmother is too old and judgmental to handle this, and talks about all of the girlfriends that I have. And he can kind of feel that his mother is really kind of
also projecting.
Yeah, projecting that she wishes that he were not this way.
Yeah.
It's really sad, but I really liked the Ethan character. I thought I loved the snappy comebacks to the bullies, and Simon deals with a couple of bullies, which I think are supposed to be the same characters in the book. He gets accosted in the hall, like the English hallway, and there's some bullying that goes on in the drama club, not within the club, but people show up and do stupid things and whatnot. One of the major differences is the school play, and in the movie, for some reason, it's cabaret, which does
like,
not seem appropriate.
Tropes.
Does not seem appropriate at all because Cabaret is like in a brothel, like literally
and about Nazis.
Like you can literally see they're dressed up as like flapper prostitutes, and I don't know why they would go with this. Maybe they thought the song would be funnier versus Oliver songs. Maybe they couldn't get the rights to Oliver. I didn't really have time to look into it.
Does Oliver ! Have music?
It's a musical.
Okay,
yeah.
I thought it was a play.
Yeah.
I know Oliver and Company. It was a musical.
Yeah, it's a.
But that's like if they wanted to do Cats plus Oliver.
Yeah, Oliver is a musical because in the book, remember they go to like the different rooms to work on the songs.
Vaguely.
Yes, and you can just tell that this musical, like this theater program, like the teacher makes a comment about like when the principal said that I could not exclude anyone from the play, and then she's like, "That's the end of my speech."
Yeah,
it's a setup for this motivational moment about how we've come together, but no, it's just terrible.
Absolutely terrible.
So very terrible. All right, the Halloween party is different as well. First of all, Bram is not at the Halloween party at all. He had to stay home and hand out candy to the kids. But here he is on the right, dressed up as a Barack Obama post-presidency, chilling out in Hawaii.
Yep, writing memoirs, sipping Mai Tais.
Yeah.
The costumes in general that some of them choose, like they go into the fact that like Abby wears something at school that's different at the party.
Yeah, she's Cleopatra at school and then dresses as Wonder Woman at the party. I don't remember what Nick wore, but it wasn't Cristiano Ronaldo.
And then
Martin's in the back, and he's dressed as the Freudian slip.
Which I don't think Martin was at the party in the book, or if he was, I don't remember.
If he was, he wasn't dressed that way. There was like some random freshman girl
that was dressed that way.
Which does not make any sense, because what freshman girl would know what a Freudian slip is?
Well, we'll talk about that later.
And then Leah and Simon are dressed as John and Yoko Ono, and they dress as something different in the book. I'm trying to remember.
Simon
what it
was a Dementor.
Oh, right. Yeah, he was a Dementor, and I can't remember what Leah dressed as, but they didn't have like a matchy friend costume.
Yeah. And
so this is really kind of show off their friendship, because they're supposed to be best friends, but in the book it wasn't as quite
again an issue
quite this way. And yeah, Simon gets like super drunk at the Halloween party. And he doesn't get like he has like a beer at the Halloween party in the book, and he comes home and he's fine. And Abby spends the night with him and not Leah, because Abby lives far away. All right, Simon's secret's revealed. So again, Martin had screenshots of his correspondence with Blue. So in the book, he just posts a Grindr ad, I guess. I don't know, some kind of a cattle call of come one, come all, gentlemen of the school, declaring that Simon is gay and wants to do all sorts of gay things with people. And then there's like little clues about Blue in here, Blue's Clues. But he doesn't share this. But Martin doesn't share the screenshots in the book. In the movie, he does like blatantly, and so Blue gets upset because he finds out, and he deletes his account, so Simon can't talk to him anymore. Basically, after Martin embarrasses himself in front of Abby and the whole school at homecoming by asking her out at the homecoming halftime show, because big grand gestures. Don't do that to people. Just don't.
Yeah.
And then in the book, it's like Simon didn't really try to push Martin and Abby together. In the movie, he really he sabotages all sorts of little relationships to make that work to hold his secret.
Well, and there's like in the book, they literally I think they go to Waffle House like twice.
Yeah.
With Martin
to learn lines.
And to learn lines, and that's really all that's there. But in the movie, it's the Halloween party. It's something else.
Yeah, he tells Nick that Abby has a boyfriend. He says that Leah likes Nick, where in the movie she doesn't like Nick at all. So she tries to.
It's this big cluster of terrible things that make them rightfully angry.
Yes. And then Simon contacts Blue about meeting up. So in the book, because Blue never deletes his email account. Simon emails him this big long letter about how much he knows who he is and what kind of person he is and how he really wants to get to know him. And it's kind of like the last ditch effort situation, because everybody's found out who Simon is, and Blue's figured it out as well, and Simon can't figure out who he is, and Blue got weirded out, and it was a whole big thing.
Yep.
Whole big thing. And then in the movie, because Blue's email account is deleted, Simon posts as himself on the Creek Secrets website, which I think is supposed to be Tumblr, but it's just not specific in the movie, whereas in the book it is.
They call it a blog, specifically the Creek Secrets blog.
Mm-hmm. And so
he just sounds like a terrible.
Yeah, he just posted on there and says, "I'll be waiting at the Ferris wheel for you."
Yep.
Because there's a big thing in the movie about Blue had mentioned life is like a Ferris wheel that's not in the book. And so then they're meet cute, where they actually get to meet each other. In the book, it's very anticlimactic. He's on the tilt-a-whirl, and the park's about to close, and then Bram shows up. It's like, "Can I sit here?" And he seemed nervous, and he comments on his shirt that Bram had bought him, and then they it's revealed.
Yeah.
And then they ride the tilt-a-whirl, and Bram hates the tilt-a-whirl, so the fact that he rode it with Simon is supposed to show that he cares about him, I guess.
Yeah, it's really underwhelming.
In the movie, the payoff is so great, because poor Simon spends all of his festival tickets on the Ferris wheel and is just waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally it's the last ride, and Martin shows up, and it's no, it's not me, but here's some money so that you can ride one more time, and hopefully your person will show up for you. It's kind of his redemption arc. And then Bram shows up. It's "Can I sit here?" It's you're waiting for someone. Yeah, you're waiting for me. And it's my heart is swelled in the theater. Yep. I was so excited that it was him.
We watched it again last night, and our heart just swelled.
Yes, but I remember in the theater the first time, I was so excited. And it's so sweet. And then they ride the Ferris wheel, and the whole town is practically watching.
Yeah,
because people are rooting for them.
It's the opposite end of an issue, because it's kind of silly how ridiculous this has become a everyone's involved thing.
Yeah.
So.
And then with Simon posting his thing out as literally, because Creek Secrets you post anonymously, but now more people are posting as themselves, and it changed the dynamic of the site. For none of that stuff happens in the book. And at one point, Bram and Simon are leaving. I think it's a talent show, and they can't hold hands because it's Georgia.
Yeah,
that was a weird comment, but we'll get there
because we're still living in Georgia. Yeah, nothing really new in the chat, so we can just slide on over to the gripes.
All right. So one of my biggest gripes is they keep mentioning Simon's iPod, but this book came out in 2015. No teenager would use an iPod in 2015.
It's not just iPod. It's they talked about having cell phones for texting, but he still has to get on his computer for email, and I've been using my phone for email since 2013.
Yeah. It just didn't make sense. Maybe the author had been working on the book for a long time and never updated that point. But yeah, that did stand out to me every time. It's yeah, my iPod. And then when I looked up the publication date, I'm they should have updated that. At least to say listening to iTunes, Yep. But yeah, no teen. You would get made fun of if you were using an iPod in 2015.
Unless you're a baby driver.
Well, yeah, if you're baby. Maybe it's a Georgia thing. Maybe they're behind.
It's some sort of Napoleon Dynamite situation.
Yeah, because this was in Georgia. That was in Georgia, outside of Atlanta. This was outside of Atlanta. So, yeah, maybe it's just that. Georgia, a black hole for Apple technology. They got the iPods. Good old iPods. And then this bothered me in the audiobook. This is not a big deal when you read it yourself, because you can skim over this information, but their email addresses are so long. So when I was listening to the audiobook with Joe, hour to hour, from hour to hour, .note to note at gmail.com to bluegreen118 at gmail.com, date January 25th at 9:27 a.m., subject us. And so you have to go through that every email. And there are a lot of email correspondences in one chapter. So it just really took they could have probably shaved off 45 minutes of the book just shortening up those emails. from Blue to Jacques.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
like
you know
each other's fake names. Put that in your contact info.
It's not Jacques. It's hour to hour, note to note. Because that was a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
Because in the movie he's Jacques, and
in the movie, he signs his name Jacques, but his email address is different. It's like from my window 1.
Yeah, from my window to your door.
Yeah, I forgot that. But no, it's shorter. I just didn't get a screenshot of that. There wasn't a lot
here
of
to there or something.
There was the email address was different and shorter, so I don't know why they could. Maybe hour to hour note to note was taken.
I guess either that or they're like, this is too obscure of a reference
because it's supposed to be like a book reference. Right?
Yeah, it's all.
But yeah, his email address is different. But Blue Green 118 is in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, just reading this over, like hearing it over and over again. When I was reading it, I just skipped over. I was like, I don't care what date it is.
So, I have a couple of tiny little issues here at this one. Like one of them is this is a common thread in the contemporary, not science fiction, fantasy YA novel writing, and it's like these kids are this weird combination of way too smart for their own good and also not smart. Like, and it's like this, they're over emotional and all sorts of other stuff. And I know there are people that are like, well, that's how high schoolers are. I've dealt with high schoolers for 4 years, you for almost 10.
Yeah, this is literally my 10th year in education.
And they're not like this. Not quite. They're always some.
They're not 100% like this.
Yeah. And I get that, like, yeah, you may want a story about the more interesting characters, but the issue is, like, you shouldn't be displaying that the smart and overly dramatic characters are the only interesting characters, because it's not fair. It's not right. And even further, and I know this is getting a little reachy here, but it's almost like a weird cyclical societal standard. Like, YA writers write teens, especially high schoolers, this way because they believe that kids are all like this.
Or maybe they were like that when they were in school.
But they believe enough kids are like this that they can have a group of 4 or 5 of them together that are all like this. We hung out with a group of 4 or 5 people all the time, and not all of us were all the same. Like, these kids are almost all the same, except like one's into sports and one's into theater and that kind of stuff. But they're all like, they quip and keep up with each other just as quickly and all sorts of stuff. It's not as bad in the book as it is in the movie. Still pretty bad in the movie, or still pretty bad in the book.
Yeah.
But like, kids are not always like that. But by presenting these characters this way, it kind of makes kids think they have to be like that.
Maybe some kids.
Yeah, the kids that would be into reading books like this, and it's a thing, and then it creates unrealistic expectations and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's a tiring trope I'm getting exhausted by.
Of like the overly intellectual high school senior.
The overly intellectual, also incredibly emotionally mature for their age, while also being incredibly emotionally immature.
Yeah, like it's speaking of being emotionally immature, like Leah really hates Abby, and I guess it probably makes more sense in the book than in the movie because they both like Nick.
Yeah.
And Nick obviously likes Abby better. So I thought that they handled that better in the book, but it's just like it annoyed me. So, like, I don't know, like the dynamic annoyed me so much in the book with the two of them, because like Abby, like they never had like that. I know it's Simon's story, but I felt like maybe there should have been like a little confrontation between the two of them.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have made more sense.
Well, the thing is,
have a better resolution, but it felt like they just kind of like ignored Leah for a while, and then like she came back and was angry, and then she disappeared again, and then suddenly like they were all friends again.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with the characterization and the personal relationship between all these kids that makes more sense in the book, like. Just period, or well, some of it makes more sense in the movie, some of it makes more sense in the book. The thing is, in the book, the only ones that you get any sort of actual deep connection with are Simon and Abby, and Abby is supposed to be his most recent friend, where he grew up with Nick and Leah, and they're like, Nick is kind of boiled down to like, I like soccer and Assassin's Creed and philosophy.
And I'm
awkward and like philosophy.
Yeah,
like he always does this, like, what if we're not really here, man? Type situation, and all sorts of stuff like that. And then Leah is boiled down to the tropes of like, she's the geeky goth girl that also likes anime.
Yeah, in the book, and they really don't hone in on that at all in the movie. They kind of really just kind of like wash all of that from her, and then suddenly she's like the best drum player ever in the band, and it's
out of left field. And I get that, like you said, Simon is the main character.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really need the life story of all four of these three other characters or whatever. But it's a little frustrating that it's just like suddenly out of like left field, because there's a part in the book where Simon talks about like, I really don't know what happened to like Leah's dad recently or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that apparently happened like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And if they've known each other since kids, how the heck does he not know that?
Yeah, how the heck does he not know these things about like people he eats lunch with every day? It's like
that he spends time with every day after school.
What are these kids talking about? Because this is like a core group of friends, and there's like other friends that they eat lunch with. And
when we were in high school, we knew everything that was going on with our friends' lives. And it's not because we would dig into it. It's because when you're that close to people,
you share things.
You share. So Simon not knowing what happened to Leah's dad 4 or 5 years ago just seems wildly unrealistic. But then they turn around and they're supposed to be emotionally intelligent and very deep and very well read and all this other stuff. And it's just like, it doesn't translate well. Like, pick a thread and stay with it.
Yeah, another thing that didn't make quite as much sense in the book but made more sense in the movie was the anger at Simon towards the blackmailing situation. Like, Abby kind of gives him the cold shoulder after she finds out about Martin, when he never actively tried to get them together. It was just kind of like he put them in situations where they would be in the same room.
Yeah.
But he never lied to her about
any other relationships. He never like tried to like prop Martin up to her. He's just like, we're gonna go with Martin to Waffle House and read lines.
And so she gets really mad at him. So that didn't make as like, obviously, like, you know, a little angry, but like not enough to like cold shoulder somebody and then be like, well, you should get someone else to do your makeup for this play because I'm not going to talk to you anymore. It made much more sense in the movie when his whole friend group, because he ruined like
he really like screwed with all of them.
Yes.
And it was incredibly frustrating.
And then Abby's mad at Simon because he did not come out to her.
Leah.
Leah. I always get those two confused. Their names are too similar to me. They're interchangeable names, even though they don't look anything alike. She looks like she should be named Abby. Leah gets mad at Simon for not coming out to her because they've been friends longer, but he explains to her, like, it's hard. Like, I've known you forever. I haven't known her as long. You're not, you know, we have a history together. Me and her don't.
And that argument makes so much sense.
She's going to be less judgy. And then Leah kind of was more on board with it.
Yeah. In the movie.
Yeah. Or in the book too.
Yeah. And that argument makes a lot of sense to me as well in general in the book, because, you know, he's known Abby for what, like 4 months or something like that, or 3 months. And that's like, okay, so 3 months of this relationship will have changed, as opposed to with Leah, we're like 9 years.
Yeah, lifetime practically.
Right. So yes, it's a continuing trope that I have issue with YA personally, that like kids are written weirdly and don't make a lot of sense.
I felt that these kids were written better than in some other YA books that I've read, which I will not name.
I will agree.
I felt that they were a little more realistic than in a lot of other stories.
Because they're not like been reading Voltaire since age 7.
Yeah, exactly. Like they seemed pretty typical. Like even though Simon and them, they are in all AP classes, but they seemed like the typical
AP kids.
Yeah, they seem like typical AP kids, where just because you're in that class doesn't mean that you are like a super brilliant person who's going to get like a 5 on the AP exam.
Also, what schools don't micromanage their kids anymore? Like, because like in the book, they're just like, the teacher's like, I'm going to let you go early, and they have like 50 minutes until their next class practically because of that.
Yeah, that's
like
not
the teachers are getting so much trouble.
Yeah. Some people don't understand how schools work.
For kids. That all of our gripes?
I think so. Yep.
So we're on to our likes now.
There wasn't too much.
Speaking of a like, I already brought it up, but Cal likes the slide design.
Oh. All right. So I did like the email correspondence. It was very not formulaic, but structured throughout the book, where the odd numbered chapters would be something from like more of a traditional narrative perspective, and then we would get the email chapters and the even ones. I do wish, and this is just a minor thing, they would have formatted it to be more like a Google
like have a window.
Yeah, like a window.
Have little effects.
They could have done some more with the design where it could look cooler and more like as a text feature versus this is very plain. So I was hoping there would be more design behind the emails because in the movie they do cool stuff with it.
Yeah.
So I thought in the book it would have been cool too, but it was just very, very plain with the little subject lines.
Yep.
Like and these are like the most formal children ever.
Yeah.
I guess because they're like going old school pen pal, but like kids do not write emails like this.
No, this is way too well written.
You should see some of the emails I've gotten from children.
Yeah.
No, nothing like this. So yeah, that was really my only
major like from the movie.
I mean,
from the book.
Because again, overall, I really enjoyed the story. I liked the characters and the relationship. I would have liked to see more of Bram throughout the book. I felt like he wasn't there enough as a clue, whereas you felt that he was there enough times.
I felt he was represented about as much as say he was in the movie, just in different ways. Because like there was a part where they go up to soccer practice and he talks about Bram at soccer practice and they talk to Bram and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And there's often references to him being with them at the lunch table or little things like that. But I feel it's relatively similar as where the movie kind of like hones in on him really early on as a primary character or a supplementary character, technically a primary character. So,
any other likes that you want to share
from the book? I liked that the book was able to capture, and this is a weird way to put it, the nuance in the character of Martin. Like, he's not a character you are supposed to like or care that much about, but he, like all characters, it's the thing, like, in high school, this is one of the accurate things I enjoyed about it. Even, like, bullies typically have some sort of, like, reason that they're bullying. So this is kind of a similar situation for me, that Martin is... he is not bullying, but he's got his reasons for doing what he's doing. And he is a pitiable character. And I don't mean that negatively. Like, he feels bad about what he did. He's still crappy that he did it.
Yeah.
But he, like, immediately regrets.
Yeah, like, at one point in the book, Simon yells at him and Martin's crying. And then he reaches out to him through email later on in the book. In fact, I think the last email in the book is Martin to Simon.
Yeah.
Basically explaining everything and saying how much he regret what he had did and he wishes that he had just sought out friendship from him instead of...
Yeah, though he states it as
blackmailing.
Like even when he's trying to be a better dude, he's still skeezy. And that's like, oh, come on, man. But I do enjoy that he is a very subtle character. It is frustrating, going back to the gripes real quick for a moment, that we get more characterization from Martin than we do two of Simon's best friends.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so we're going to talk about the things that we missed most from the movie, things that they did not adapt. All right, so...
Where's Alice?
Yeah, so there is a sister that is not in the movie at all.
I'm like, where's Alice? What's that? Who's Alice? They're like, yeah, there's this sister and this other sister. And you're like, he has two sisters?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we had to like reread and go back over that part again.
Yes, because it was so confusing. It's like, who's who and like what?
Which one?
Like,
okay, who's got the earrings?
Like, what is this? Yeah, because Nora has like her whole
5 ear studs.
Yeah, she has like all these ear piercings, and then it's like, is Nora like her roommate? No, that's his regular sister.
That's the one from the movie.
Yeah, and then you had a funny comment about Alice.
I don't even remember my comment about Alice.
Similar to a certain velociraptor.
Oh, you mean like Alice?
Yes.
Alice.
So yeah,
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, Alice is doesn't exist in the movie.
But remembered if you put a velociraptor in the
Well, I didn't do that. I'm sorry. I just put a velociraptor in the corner over there.
Alice popping up in the bottom corner.
I'm not that good at Photoshop, and I didn't have a lot of time.
That's fair.
And then Nora.
The age difference, like in the movie.
In the movie, she's like in junior high.
Yeah, and she actually has like characterization in the movie, other than just being, look, it's his younger sister. Yeah. But in the movie, she's like a cook, and she's like a way like friendlier, sweeter character, and like we have her there.
She's always wearing these little bows in her hair, and Just like she's very precious. She gets real sad when Simon yells at her after it's found out that he is, like, it comes out that he's gay. And
also, I like his parents more in the movie. They're actually, you know, there.
Yeah, there's like a point where and this happens in the book as well, where the dad makes an off-color comment about, like, oh, which one of your girlfriends turned you gay? And then, like, the mom is like, don't say stuff like that. And in the book, or no, it's the sister, but in the book, it's the older sister who says that. And like, the dad has to, like, realize that the things that he was saying was problematic. And
like, he wasn't trying to be hurtful, but
you know, people make those jokes a lot because people don't realize how hurtful those kind of jokes are, that because you don't turn, you just were, it was in your soul and your being. You just are. It doesn't have anything to do with the experiences that you've had. It's just in your DNA.
So, well, in general, they're just also, they have character in the movie. Like, they had this whole subplot in the movie of, like, Simon having to help his dad create, like, a video of their anniversary.
Because he made one that was dumb.
Yeah.
And Simon's like, I'm more sensitive than you. I will help you.
Well, not just that. Like, he knows computers because his dad doesn't even know how to export the video.
Yeah. And then what I wanted to see, Simon being punished for showing up drunk, because in the book he's so desperate to get the shirt that Blue gave him that he shows up to his house drunk, and his parents are up and they're like, no, you're grounded for 2 weeks. We're taking your phone and your computer. So it's devastating to him. And then here they're just like, our son showed up drunk. We're just going to let it go.
Well, they're like, well, he didn't drive and he's staying here.
So it's fine. It's fine. We're good parents,
we're good
right?
Parents. That's literally the line. We're good parents. We're awesome parents.
And the drunk scene in the book is like Simon's having like a terrible, no good, bad day. And so Abby and Nick want to take him out. And this is where they ditch Leah because Leah would just ruin everything.
Quote unquote ruin.
Quote unquote ruin because of her attitude. And so they go into Atlanta and go to all these different places. And then they go to this bar restaurant, and it's more of like a gay friendly place, and like a gay guy hits on Simon and buys him drinks. Lots of drinks, and then finds out he's a 17-year-old kid and is like, oh no, honey, you go back to your friends, come back to me when you're older, because he didn't realize how young Simon was. And it was kind of like a weird scene. I can see why they would not put that in the movie, because structurally it wouldn't help anything, and it would just be like a weird moment where, like, you're going to be worried that Simon's going to get taken advantage of, because that's what I was worried about when I read that scene. Like, oh no, where's this going? He's going to, you know, get it too inebriated, and, you know, some non-consensual things could happen to him.
Well, and in the movie, like, his friends are mad at him from New Year's Day, because he doesn't talk to them after the whole post on Christmas Eve, and then on New Year's Day his friends are still mad, or not New Year's Day, when by the time they get back to school, they're still mad at him, and further, they're not okay with him until the end of the play. Like, in the book, it's like they're still mad at him a little bit after that and things like that. As a matter of fact, things kind of get a little worse during the play, but like by the play's end, they're all like, let's go.
All right, I think that was it for because they added a lot of stuff to the story. Yeah, and there was a lot.
The car situation was a thing. We have a cat now, by the way.
Oh yeah, like he couldn't drive anybody in his car, but in the movie, like he carpools everybody, and it's actually kind of nice.
Yeah, it's a nice little situation.
Yeah, but overall, what did you think of the book?
I like the book. It's fine. The worst thing about the book is it's wildly okay. It's like it's fine. It's a good book. I don't have any issues with it. I think the movie did it better.
Yeah, I also enjoyed the movie better. I thought that they could do some stuff that was narratively cool versus what they could do within the confines of the book. I did like the book. I thought it was a very pleasant read, just kind of like a little bit of brain candy.
And it's nice.
Like, you don't have to think too hard. It's just like an enjoyable time. It's a really good, like, you know, little love story between the two characters, and it's kind of cool to see people corresponding back and forth via email.
I also think it's interesting. I kind of wonder how we would feel about the book if we had not seen the movie first.
Yeah, I'm thinking that
it may be slightly different because the reveal and things like that.
Yeah, because we kind of keep going back and forth. These things all kind of like blend together, even though we had like the distinct categories.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you get the reveal in the movie, because that's like literally the climactic moment, and then the denouement is really short, like it feels very satisfying. In the book, when there's like 45 more minutes of book time.
It's a little over an hour.
Or no, like I forgot how much when the reveal happens in the book. There's like
2 chapters.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 chapters left. So it's like, okay, like what are we doing? What are we doing? So like they're trying to wrap up all the other little plot points, but like I'm done because I don't want to see like what happens after.
Yeah.
I'm fine just knowing that they got together. I don't want to see the happily ever after because we know happily ever after is not real.
Yeah.
And I don't want to find out what happens 10 years later either.
Yep.
Because they're probably not going to be together. I'm going to be sad.
Well, I mean, even if they are, like, they're probably like going to college or no,
Yeah.
it's 10 years later. They're probably like, like doing their garden on the weekends and like hanging out and watching TV or talking about like The Bachelor or Bachelorette or whatever show.
Yeah, because in the movie, Simon talks about he's going to go to college in Los Angeles and then how like it's going to be like this wonderfully like gay experience and there's like people dancing around.
He could be out and proud.
Yeah,
and that
out
kind
and
of
proud.
Stuff.
Yeah. They don't have that in the book.
It was a very Doug moment because it was like him wrapped up in his imagination of what it was going to be like. I actually am kind of sad that was the only real, other than him envisioning who's writing the emails, that was like the only imagination moment that he had. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I would have thought it would be kind of fun to have more of that. Like maybe when Martin threatens him or threatens to blackmail him, like have this imagination of him beating the crap out of Martin or something like that. That would have been kind of cool too.
Yeah.
Little things, but it was fine other than that. It's just that one imagination moment was kind of jarring compared to the rest of the movie.
Yeah, because because it didn't really fit with the rest of the tone of the movie. Yeah, I see that.
But otherwise, I really enjoyed the book. Yeah. I enjoyed the movie a lot more.
Me too.
Because we rewatched the movie last night after finishing the book to make sure, like, had our thoughts still changed? What were we remembering or misremembering?
Yeah, because I was taking notes as we were going for everything I could remember that was different from the movie, but there were some things I had forgotten about. Yep. But yeah, I thought the experience was good. We picked this book because it is kind of it is back to school, and this was a story that happens at school, so and different genre than what we read last month. So speaking of what we're reading,
we got our next book announcement.
All right, and so next month's book, drum roll please. Black Klansman.
Book came out September 30th of, I guess, last year.
No, that's our book club date.
Right. My bad.
Yeah, I don't know when the book came out. I will look that up later when I make the Black Klansman PowerPoint.
Yep.
So yeah, that is currently in theaters, but it's based off of a memoir by the real Ron Stallworth, who we actually got to meet.
He's a really cool dude.
So we'll post that picture. We'll put that picture in the review and such.
Yep.
And promote the show. But yeah, read the book, see the movie, join the discussion.
Yep.
So we're excited to read that. We've already seen Black Klansman twice in the theater.
At a early screening and then a screening that Ron Stallworth himself was at.
So I'm really excited to read the memoir because he talked about a lot of the differences between the memoir and the movie where, Spike Lee obviously got to Hollywood up some things.
Yeah.
And then there's like another half of the story that's not even in the movie at all.
Well, and it's something like the movie feels like it takes place over like a 6-month period.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's something like a 9-year period or something like that.
Yeah, I guess he started in the force when he was 19, and the movie really focuses on when he was 25. So it all kind of pretends that it's all at that same time. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this. This is another really short read, pretty much available everywhere because of the movie. The book is more prevalent, so at Barnes & Noble, Audible, Amazon, wherever you can get books.
If you do decide you want to get the Audible version and you don't have an Audible account, if you look in the description of this video, because it should already be there, you can sign up with audible.com or audibletrial.com or something like that. The link's down there. Using our link, and you can get a free book. when you subscribe. And yeah, this book is not only it's right under 6 hours, but it's also narrated or read by Ron Stallworth himself. So you're getting him reading his own memoirs, and that's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're excited. Please join us on September 30th, which will be, I believe, another Sunday, the last Sunday in September, my sister's birthday.
Ooh.
And yeah, thank you for joining us, everyone. This has been a pretty exciting ordeal. We like
talking about books.
Mm-hmm. We were going to do a different book for next month, but then we saw this movie and got to meet the guy, and we're like, no, let's do this.
Let's do this.
So, so thank you very much for joining us. As always, it's been a pleasure. And we will see you guys next month. We'll probably see you guys before then.
Yeah.
Because on September 23rd, there's
a
very special episode of Fan Friction we're involved with
Mm-hmm.
that involves a couples fight. We did one of these last year against just Tom and Kimber, but this year it's going to be us, Tom and Kimber, and April, Dawn, and JTE. JTE working for Screen Junkies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of people to have to deal with.
And then also coming up in October.
I forgot what October is.
Rocktober.
Oh, right. So Creed comes out around Thanksgiving, Creed 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we're thinking, as neither of us have seen any of these movies, other than like the little bit you'll catch on a Sunday afternoon on a local television channel or something, the Rocky movies. We're going to spend the entire month of October talking about the Rocky movies.
It'll probably bleed over into November. We haven't worked out a schedule yet, but
we're figuring it out.
But yeah, it's in the same vein of things like To Infinity War and Beyond and Jurassic June and
From Rebellion to Resistance.
Yeah, those kind of things. So yeah, we're going to be tackling something that we don't really have a lot of prior knowledge to. So that's going to be fun and different. And those movies are iconic, as you know, the Mr. Hal Rudnick would say. From Movie Fight. So yeah, we're gonna talk about those iconic movies and kind of fill in a gap that we have in our movie knowledge. Everybody else has seen Rocky but us. I'm tired of people making fun of me.
So we're gonna spend September having a fan friction, reading some Black Klansman, talking about it, and then all of October and we're probably into mid-November easily. Yeah. We're going to be doing Rocky movies and the first Creed movie, and anything else we can find that would make sense. Yeah. Related to those. So we may talk to JT about that earlier. See if we can message him and see if he can give us a good list of other associated movies if there are any. Yeah. In the Rocky verse, as this is probably going to be dubbed eventually. All right. Thank you for joining us. Have a lovely evening. Bye. Thank you, Tib.